ultimately, I think what's kept the audience is the building of trust.
Building of trust,
Yeah, the building of trust with our audience. It's always, we're not here to clickbait, we're here to have a real conversation.
Yes.
And real conversations don't always have answers.
Lean into the thing that you enjoy doing.
Absolutely.
And kind of refine and hone that. And then the monetization comes as a result of doing the thing that you enjoy doing.
We've been looking at venturing out and starting another podcast within the team, yeah. And so we were talking about it, and we've been feeling like, we don't have, we're not done here.
Okay.
Before we want to diversify. But within now chatting to another friend of mine who was consulting, she said, but you guys already know that it's about starting.
Hi there. Welcome to Monetize Your Business podcast conversations in partnership with FNB. As you know, each week we bring you phenomenal entrepreneurs that are doing amazing things within their specific area of expertise. Now, you know how we do over here. I'm not flying this plane on my own. I've got my trusted co-pilot with me. Papa Biz, how are you this week?
No, I'm good. I'm really glad that we can be able to have another conversation. So now I'm in a good space.
Great stuff. Now tell me, how's your week been and any entrepreneurship aha moments?
Interestingly, I was having a conversation with a specialized corporate friend of mine.
Okay.
Where I was just talking about things that I was learning and picking up. And then he asked me actually, what qualifications does this person have that you're listening to? And what he inferred is that if they don't have the necessary qualifications, I shouldn't be learning from them.
From that person.
And I found it was such an interesting disposition between those of us in entrepreneurship space versus those in corporate. Because we find very quickly when you get into business that a lot of the lessons and information that we need, we don't actually get it from a traditional school system.
True.
So what you find is that we need to get educated more so from people that have actually walked the path before,
Absolutely.
or what they're communicating actually makes sense to the business that we are running. Of course, different industries, they've got certifications to be involved. But what I found, it was a challenge for him, but what I found was that one of the most pertinent quotes that sits with me is actually from Mark Twain, where he said, never allow schooling to get in the way of your education.
Sure. Powerful.
And, with us in the entrepreneurship space, there's so many things we need to be educated on.
Yes.
How to market and grow your business. How to handle legal matters, handling landlords, handling staff, handling yourself as a leader just to be able to grow. And it's so interesting because he's very smart, this friend of mine. But in the entrepreneurship space, if you look even in South Africa, whether it's Batu or Galax Boy or Sorbet, there's no certificate that they put up.
True.
That just gets people to run to their stores.
Yes.
That's not how our game works.
Absolutely.
So it's just a reminder in terms of, us in the entrepreneurship landscape, we need to really focus on getting education from people who've walked the path.
Yes.
And people who talk sense in terms of things that we can actually apply in terms of our own businesses. And that's why I'm actually looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have with Ursula.
Yeah.
Because as you are fully aware, she's a wonderful expert within the podcasting environment. And I'm looking forward to what we can learn from her.
No, absolutely. Me too. It's funny you bring that up because it's something I was thinking about the other day. The importance of learning from people who've walked the walk and who've actually have a lived experience of the thing that maybe you're looking to accomplish. So I think that that's a really big takeaway that you've gotten. As you said, we are actually having a conversation today with a woman who's walking the walk and talking the talk and actually doing the thing. And that's very, very exciting. Podcasting is such a big space that's continually growing, which is quite exciting. So today we've got Ursula Mariani, who is from the Conversation Capital podcast. Welcome to today's conversation.
Thanks for having me, Haiti. Thanks for having me, Papa Biz.
It's such a pleasure to have you. How does it feel like being on the other seat? Because you're used to the one throwing the questions out.
I definitely feel safer in that seat, but I'm going to do my best.
Yeah. Today is all going to be about the business of podcasting. And I think that you are absolutely well suited for this conversation. But perhaps for people who are wondering a little bit about the person behind the voice, can you tell us just a little bit about who is Ursula? Where did you grow up? Maybe a little bit of your earlier context for us.
Sure. Earlier context, definitely a Val girl, always representing 18 Emoyeni.
Nice.
And so that's my hometown, boarding school, product of boarding school. And then I went to University of Pretoria. My background is actually in the health science space. Ended up as a lecturer at WITS, and now I'm in the podcasting space. So I was always running like a dual career.
Yeah.
I started doing voiceovers and Tax FM. And then I sort of found my voice, and I was like, okay, I'm studying this, but I really like this. And I always thought of or saw it as a hobby.
Yes.
And as, joke's on me, it turned out not to be a hobby, but the real deal.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to check, because there's different business owners that I will talk to where they're thinking about, oh, I'd love to have a podcast in this area or that area, and their mind is all over the place. How did you end up starting and moving towards the conversation?
So I think what's really important is, and I think it highlights something important, that you should start off with what resonates with you in the podcasting space. And so when we started off, it actually had very little to do with a possible business.
Okay.
I was doing a radio show at the time. It was called I Talk Youth. And we were just having really important conversations on that platform. And it was once a week, so it wasn't overwhelming my other spaces. And a friend of mine had approached me. I also used to run this thing on my WhatsApp called Discussion Room.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So, and it was just on my WhatsApp.
Okay.
Yeah.
But every Tuesday, I would say, guys, today we're talking about infidelity. And then people would send in voice notes, and we had rules like no voice notes over a minute, and I would share the voice notes. And so people would get involved and not even know like who they're talking to, but it was on this, on this platform. So a friend of mine then approached and said, Ursh, you're onto something. Between I Talk Youth and Discussion Room, I think that you've really got a gift for facilitating some of these conversations.
Wow.
And at the time, I had also felt that I had found something that I really wanted to be a part of with regards to just, pushing conversations that are difficult to have in a way that's sensitive enough. And so I was like, actually, this is something I want to do. And so then we partnered, and I brought in my co-host, who's also my cousin, as, head of production. And between the three of us, it's been, sky's the limit. We've just been growing from strength to strength. And within, I think, the first 3 months, a clip went around and trended on Twitter.
On Twitter? Okay.
Yeah. And then I remember 702 was playing it, and it was within the first 3 months of starting the podcast.
Really? Amazing.
Yeah. That's when we knew, okay, we're onto something. Something is actually happening.
Yes.
And then YouTube says to you, oh, it's time for you guys to get paid. You guys are getting a lot of views. So they approach you, right? And then that's when the business conversation starts happening. But it really came from a source of like passion and a passion project. It really was a passion project. Yeah.
It actually reminds me of this thing that we often tell entrepreneurs is to lean into the thing that you enjoy doing.
Absolutely.
And kind of refine and hone that. Yeah. And then the monetization comes as a result of doing the thing that you enjoy doing. And I think that's really a great testament to that.
I've been, I've been interviewing a lot of entrepreneurs and reading a lot of entrepreneurship. But when you're in entrepreneurship, you need to gather knowledge and stories around you.
Yes.
And so I find myself in this place where I'm surrounded, and there's a point where passion can only take you so far.
Yeah.
And then you need to start implementing strategy and start being like, okay, now we're doing a thing and now we're building. I was chatting to an entrepreneur yesterday, and he was telling us his story, and it's a pair of clippers, the owner of Legends Barbershop, Sheldon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sheldon, yeah.
And so then I said to him, but there must be a point where you say, now
to monetize.
Now I'm doing a thing.
Strategic.
Yes, it's not a hobby that I do, because he was at a call center during the week, and then over the weekend cutting hair.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting how your hobby, your passion can get you only to a certain point, but if you're really going to build an entity, there needs to be a moment where you stop and you say, okay, let's start handling this as a business.
Yes, absolutely.
Now I wanted to check. You mentioned Sheldon, but for those, when they're looking to start off, it's quite daunting. For you, how did you go about in the beginning, just getting that first group of guests just to be able to engage in assessing, would this actually make sense?
No, I actually really like this question, and it depends who's asking the question, right? So if somebody comes to me and they say, "Ush, how do you start a podcast?" If it's F&B, it's definitely not the same advice. So
True.
they've got,
The context
yes,
matters.
and yeah, the resources to
Yes.
go all in and put in funds. And but then there's somebody else who, just a young girl, maybe she's doing second year, and she says, "I'm interested in what you do." And the point is, though, for both, the point is start.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Quality and everything does go a long way, don't get me wrong. But if you don't have it yet, start.
Okay.
Because it starts somewhere. It's almost like investing, right?
True.
It's about how long
Yes.
the
that consistency.
yes, yeah, and how long is it, for it to get this exponential growth over time?
Yes.
It's the same thing with podcasting. We've been looking at venturing out and starting another podcast within the team, yeah, and so we were talking about it, and we've been feeling like, we don't have we're not done here.
Okay.
Before we want to diversify, but within now chatting to another friend of mine who was consulting, she said, "But you guys already know that it's about starting."
Yes.
Yes.
You guys already know that the longer the vehicle is in the game, the more subscribe, because it's about
Yes.
starting.
And it builds momentum.
Yes, it's about starting. So the sooner you start, the better. For me, it's like starting with 15 Rand or starting with $100, but
Yes.
you're starting nonetheless.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you define the conversation capital's niche? Because you've got different podcasts that are having different kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
And I think what I really love with yours is that it really is, sometimes it's the heart of the matter.
Yes.
Sometimes it's talking about kind of taboo subjects,
Yes.
but humanizing it.
Yes.
What is the core recipe for the conversations that you have?
So this is an interesting thing. We didn't have wording for it, but our audience gave us words. People kept describing it as sitting under a tree with your friends.
Okay.
And that becomes a difficult thing to contextualize, because one day I'm sitting with you, Etienne, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's tax season and I don't know how to do my taxes. And then we delve into a whole discussion as to why don't we know how to do our taxes? And why was this not covered in LO?
Yes.
And the next day we're talking about, oh my gosh, grief is actually really difficult for me. So the concept is that you're sitting with your friend under a tree.
Yes.
It's a group of friends, and whatever conversations end up there,
Yeah.
which could go from anything from finances to marriage to grief, those are the conversations we're having on the Conversation Capital.
I love that. And how did you determine, so that paints a beautiful picture for me. How did you determine the tone of those conversations? Because there is something in my experience as a viewer, because I'm also your end user, I find it to be a very soft and open place that allows the person that you're interviewing the space and the brevity to really go as deep as they want to.
I am going to say it on this platform, and I've said it on many platforms. And so as a result, it's held me testament. I'm held accountable on many platforms, because people can go back. I always say the Conversation Capital is a safe space.
Okay.
And I say it in every sense of the word. When a guest walks in, first of all, we feed you, we give you drinks. We want you to be, no shade to you guys with the water. But we want you to unwind. We want you to feel comfortable. We even run through chats before we start shooting the podcast. And I always say, we're not live, right? This is not live television.
Yes.
After the episode, we only air episodes after a month. And I give you the guarantee, whatever it is you said that you don't feel so comfortable, after you've had a bit of a vulnerability hangover, you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't mentioned where I work. I wish I hadn't mentioned my aunt's name and this and that. We're very free and willing to cut it out. And that safety is important to us. And it translates on camera. It translates because the guest then unwinds and feels comfortable enough to share their story, because they know that we're not like, gotcha, we're about to air this on camera. That's not what we're trying to build and what we're trying to do. Yeah. And I think it's important in the long run, because ultimately the guest feels safe, the brand is safe as well.
Absolutely.
Right? So there's a brand building element to that.
Absolutely.
As a trusted brand.
Yes.
There is no, sly tactics that we're trying to do. We're not trying to run for a quick trend.
Yes, yes. And I must
wanted
say,
to just check something as well. When you spoke about the creating the safe space and safety, I think that's very good, because it allows for more authentic conversations. And you even mentioned previously that you had the experience where one of your clips was just circulating on Twitter and 702 and things like that. Outside of that, was there a point that as you were growing, you felt that something happened as a turning point where you felt, okay, this is a turning point now. I need to take this far more seriously. And now you're investing the times in the books and looking for strategies and so on. What for you was that type of turning point?
Sure, numerous.
Okay.
There were quite a few. But yeah, the first one was definitely that trend, like I mentioned. Definitely, that was the one where I was like, "This is quite serious." So I saw 5 million views on that clip, and I said, "Yeah,
That's a lot.
quite serious."
Yeah.
Because at first, I mean, you're posting and you're really posting for your friends and family, right?
Yes.
It's like, guys, look at my thing that I'm doing in my living room,
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was definitely a moment where I was like, oh, okay. And I went through a phase where I started doing an awkward thing, where I started feeling almost very disingenuous on camera, and you can pick it up because now I'm like, people are watching, and then through just growth and conversation, there was this moment of like, people came here for your authenticity.
Exactly.
People came here for your truth.
That's it.
And that's what will keep them. I always say, staying consistent with the brand that you're building is like, we all remember when SABC had schedules and we knew 8 o'clock was Generations.
Yes.
And I always say, imagine you turn on 8 o'clock Generations and Siya Vandalan starts playing.
Yeah.
That's what you do when you give the audience something that they didn't sign up for.
Exactly.
They subscribe to that,
Yes.
which you've presented. So don't switch up on them and give them
True.
something that they don't, so that was like, okay, let me give this authentic product. This is what they came for. And this is what I'm going to, because the first episode, which I remember I even had a glass of wine and I'm like cackling and I'm laughing with a friend, and we were chatting, at that time, the new law had come in that if you're a side chick, you can get paid. If the man passes away, if you can prove that he's been sustaining
you.
So it was such a funny conversation with a friend of mine who's a lawyer as to what does this mean, and and that's what people came for. So for me to now want to be like SABC News Delivery, it's not going to work. That's not what they came for.
True.
And so that was one of the turning point. But when it, like, the business element, I think came when YouTube started offering the money, and then it was like, okay, and then brands actually start emailing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, now it's not just people saying, oh, can I be on your show? It's like brands start emailing, and then you're like, and then it's a big brand, then you're like, oh, okay.
And it's like, how do I charge? I mean, how does this actually
well, we're about to get into that one, because I mean, at the end of the day, podcasting is a new space, right?
Absolutely.
And I mean, Nozipo Shabalala really likes that example of being a yellow canary.
Yes.
So the yellow canary is like a bird that they fly into a dead mine.
Yeah.
And then if it's safe to go in, it will come back. But if there's too much gas or whatever, it will die and not come back. And so that's how you know whether the mine is safe. So I feel like in podcasting, those of us that are a few years into it, we're the yellow canaries. It's like, you do the negotiations, you guys set the rate cards, you guys set the standards. And like, even within the team, like debating, no, that's too much money. This is until we eventually got to a place where we said, okay, we're settled here, and just looking at it differently.
Absolutely.
As a business.
As a business, yes.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. In looking at it as a business, it's also, I guess, balancing that authenticity and also then the business eye.
Yeah.
What are some of the metrics that you begin tracking now that it's a podcast? Is it the views, the downloads, the number of comments, the shares, even going down to the details like what thumbnail are we using? Is there a strategy around the title?
Yes.
How are you beginning to now look at those elements differently?
So the first thing I'd say is like employ AI when it comes to stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow.
So even
Amazing.
AI can even help you with titling.
Yes.
With things that are attention grabbing, and you can also make it very specific. Say attention grabbing, but not clickbaity.
Yes,
right?
because there's
And so then we feed the transcript into AI, and it gives us titles. So when people are like, oh, this title, we're like, we used AI.
Yeah.
Okay, that is not our title. And down to the thumbnails. Thumbnails, I'd say it's more about consistency. If you see a TCC thumbnail, it should look like the 10 previous ones.
Yes.
So that it's always familiar. It's a branding in and of itself.
Absolutely.
And so that's the strategy we've employed with thumbnails. But then again, I'm very grateful that I'm in a team of 3.
Okay.
And so there's constant dialogue, constant, and we're all conversationalists.
Yes.
So, and we're all critical thinkers. So we think and, we really robustly go through why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we choosing what we're choosing? And what helps us get to certain decisions? And then I'd say as a presenter,
Yes.
as somebody who needs to run the conversation, the most important number to me is how long did the person stay in the conversation?
Okay.
So not only did because it could be the thumbnail that approaches 20,000 views.
True.
It could be the title that brings another 20,000.
Yes.
But it will be the conversation and the way it is carried that will keep the attention span of. So that number for me as a presenter is the most important. How long did the person stay engaged? How long did I manage to keep them engaged with the
And
video?
do you see physical signs of that to say, oh, this person looks like they're checking out of the conversation?
Oh, absolutely. Because the algorithm, with YouTube, it gives you a full transcript of what you're doing, how you're doing it.
Yeah.
And it says to you, okay, most of your viewers dropped at 13 minutes with this video.
Okay.
Then there's another video where they're like, most of your viewers dropped at 26 minutes. Okay, this was more interesting. And then realizing, where to position which part of the conversation. We can easily fall into the trap of like old school media and how they did old school media. So old school media starts off with an introduction, a background. And that's because it wasn't that easy just to switch the channel.
True.
And if you were going to switch the channel, there were 2 other options, right?
Exactly.
So they were kind of forced, the attention. But now in the game is attention capital.
Yeah.
Can I keep your attention? So I'm not going to put all the interesting bits of the show at the end.
Yes.
Right. And I always tell my guests as well, you show up right at the beginning.
Yes.
You'd rather dwindle as you go along because they don't have to stick around anymore.
Yeah. And attention span is so short these days. You really need to grab and hold them.
Absolutely. So starting off with the kick is one of the things that we employ. But we're always like playing around and seeing, this is personally within production and presenting to say, okay, how am I keeping the audience engaged with this? For a longer period.
Wow, that's absolutely fascinating. Podcasting at the moment, it's quite a topical conversation, especially with regards to the regulation of podcasts, because as you say, it's part of new media. And so we're all kind of learning as we go along, and it's growing and developing over the years as well. What role do you see yourself playing in terms of the space and those conversations around how podcasting is growing in our country in particular?
I think this conversation, so I was invited when the regulation saga came up in Parliament, and they were saying these people need to be regulated. I was then invited to Radio 2000, the Air Breakfast Show with DJ Spoo, to have a conversation about it. And I always feel I let people down because people want a very black and white. Are you like, don't regulate us, or are you like, definitely regulate us? And I'm definitely in the gray area. I wrote an opinion piece where at the end I said, guys, grab your popcorn. It's about to get interesting.
Absolutely.
Because there's something that's happening where freedom of speech is being put to the test, right? So this is like a constitutional thing. Oh, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech without a platform meant nothing.
Absolutely.
And now people are being given a platform.
Yes, that's where it holds weight.
Yeah. Now it's like, oh, what does it mean to say freedom of speech when you're not talking to 5 people?
Yes.
When you're talking to 5 million people?
Or you don't know what's being said.
Yes.
And you got a huge reach without control.
Yeah.
But what's important, and I think, a great example of it is the US elections, that the narrative that is being fed in the media versus what is actually happening on the ground is proven by the votes.
Yes.
Right? So there's an audience for problematic content. And it's important for us as a society to know that, right? Because otherwise we're all sitting in our Lani offices and we're thinking we all think the same, right? We all think saying certain things is just problematic and you can't say that. And so when these things are exposed, it allows you to sit back and say, oh,
So it's a mirror unto ourselves.
Yes, it's a mirror to society, a mirror that was foggy. Right? You couldn't really see, and there were narratives in the media that could be pushed as to what's right, what's wrong, and only to find that many people were sitting back saying, I actually don't agree with that. And now those people have been given a voice.
Yes.
And not only have they been given a voice, we're seeing how big their audience is.
Absolutely.
And so for me, it's important, double whammy, right? It's dangerous. Young minds are influential,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
right? And being influenced
Yes.
with the power that you have, right? So not only is there a mirror as to what's actually happening in the minds of adults, but what does that look like for the influence on young kids?
Yes.
So I'm very much in the gray area. I want to know what we're dealing with. I want to know how people think in society and what they listen to and what interests them.
Yes.
And that's what it reflects. But I am scared about a 15-year-old, 16-year-old who's got access to YouTube, Spotify,
Yes.
and who's being influenced by that kind of thinking and that kind of narrative. So it's a tricky place.
Yeah. I'm sure, one of the things that I'm hearing from you as you talk about the votes and the audiences is I almost look at it now that the conversations that happen as the views go and the engagement come, that's audiences voting for what they actually want to be paying attention to,
Yes.
for matters that actually sit
Yes.
with them as opposed to the old media. The one aspect, as I'm listening to you, when you're invited to Parliament and all of these other types of discussionary areas.
By the way, I wasn't invited to Parliament, but yes, please continue.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Didn't you feel that like a type of validation in terms of what you're actually doing?
Oh, no, absolutely. Validation has come several times. Like, you keep looking for these moments. So let me share another story then. Another moment was, firstly, I didn't know I was starting a podcast. Let's start there.
Okay.
At that time, I
like,
think it wasn't
just
so
talking.
topical. Yeah, we were talking. So I kept saying, I've got a show.
Yeah.
Because for
Okay.
me, I was Oprah or Felicia,
Yes.
And then I remember we got an email from the SA Podcast and Music Festival. They wanted me to host a masterclass.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, why are they calling me? I don't do podcasting and I don't do music. And then everyone was like, you definitely do podcasting. I'm like, no, I've got a show. They were like, that show is called
Podcast.
So yeah, those are definitely moments of validation of, like, firstly, the work that you're doing, that the words that are coming out of your mouth are relating. I don't know, I was about to use the word important, but who's to say what's important and what's not, but at the very least relating with a large mass of people. And so, yeah, I've definitely had many moments of like, okay, this is clearly important.
Yeah.
And finding myself in a space where the podcast has done so well in a short space of time. I mean, we're going towards 4 years. It's 3.5 years now. Yeah, it's 3.5 years now. And it's super exceeded our expectation.
Yes.
I remember we thought at this point we'll be on like 10,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And so when that happened within the first few months, we were just like,
Wow.
And so that, has definitely, but ultimately, I think what's kept the audience is the building of trust.
Building of trust, yeah.
Yeah, the building of trust with our audience. It's always, we're not here to clickbait. We're here to have a real conversation.
Yes.
And real conversations don't always have answers. So there's always this like notion that you need to kind of show up with all the answers. And I always say that's not true.
Yeah.
When you're sitting with your friend under a tree,
We don't
there's a
have
moment
all
where
the
you guys go,
answers.
we're like the developed one.
Yeah.
And to be comfortable to say that even on the podcast. Just say, hey, we're at a crossroad. And that's why even now with the stance on podcasting,
Yes.
I'm okay to say, hey,
Yeah.
let's look at all the faces here.
Yes.
Let's look at all the areas. And I think it really helps that I always say, I'm maybe the more middle grounded person. Bonga, who's the third person in our team, or second person in the team, is extremely liberal.
Yeah.
And then Given is very conservative.
Oh, that's a
So
beautiful balance.
Right?
I love that.
And it always gives our conversation just that range that really represents I don't know. Oh, no, it's no. Oh, yes, it's yes.
Yeah.
And then we find, and we see in the comment section that everybody's just as conflicted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it brings robust conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. Do you have a particular strategy in terms of how you relate to your audience? Because there are two conversations that are happening. There's the conversation on screen with your guest, but there's also the conversation in the comment section among the audience themselves. Do you take that data? Does it inform how the podcast runs? Do you have a strategy in terms of responding to comments, etc.?
It was better when we were smaller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now,
Easier to manage, I
It's
guess.
easier to manage. Right now, it's definitely impossible to get to all of the comments.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we employed very early on is so at first when we would get ready while Given was setting up, we'd find ourselves having like really cool conversations while I was doing my makeup, getting ready for the guest for the day. And so Given would always say, we need to be recording this. We need to be recording this. And so we came up with something called the Get Ready With Me.
Okay.
Love it.
Right. And so it happens. So it's one every 4 episodes. So we shoot 4 episodes in a day.
Okay.
So it's one every 4 episodes. It's once a month. And Wind was like, okay, what's the content of this Get Ready With Me? It's these conversations, the ones we have amongst ourselves. But a second layer is the opportunity to address
Yes.
comments
Yes.
and questions.
That's fantastic.
Yes. And so, although I try to get to every comment, it's not possible. What we do is we'll group the ones that are similar, and then highlight one that
Yes.
sort of. And people really enjoy hearing their name.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Positati said this,
Yes.
and I realized that it brings them back.
Yes.
Like there was a girl who emailed me, said I was casually listening to you guys in the background, and I heard my name.
Oh,
How
You know,
sweet is that?
It
though?
is. It
That's
is.
amazing.
Yeah, and I don't think there was a tactic to it really. Somebody's strategy, sort of, the story writes itself. It was just that moment of like, guys, these conversations are so cool. We need to catch this on camera. It's like, okay, how can we do this? And how can we actually use the opportunity to really engage with our audience?
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of podcasters picking it up afterwards as well.
Okay.
And because it's critical, the audience needs to feel like they're a part of you guys. It's a community. You're building an online community. Sometimes I meet some people, they tell me their name, I know who they are because they comment that often.
And you
Okay.
see, yes, you
And-
see them.
Yeah, and it goes from being a very parasocial relationship, because a parasocial relationship is, I'm always listening to Ursula. Ursula's my best friend. She's in my ear when I'm driving. She's washing dishes with me. She's there while I'm washing my baby, you know? So Ursula's with me all the time. But Ursula is not with you all the time.
Yes.
And so sometimes it breaks that wall down, because sometimes you'll meet people that get very excited for you. And I get it, right?
Yes.
Because I'm with you in traffic.
Yes.
But you're not with me. But when I have these comment sections and I get to really,
Yes.
I can
it
even,
bridges that
it
gap.
bridges that gap. So when somebody says their name, I know exactly who they are, and
Yeah.
it really allows me to enjoy that moment with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to check now, you mentioned about the importance in building a community, because that's actually what it is, and that's where the power comes from. Have you found that in doing this, and also like you said in the beginning, unintentionally, that it's of course grown your personal brand?
Yeah.
And how has that experience been for you? Like, what type of opportunities has that created for you?
Sure. A lot of opportunities. When we met at
The workshop.
The workshop.
Nosi's workshop.
Nosi's
yes.
workshop. And that was me now, like, okay, this is a real thing. People are hiring me to speak, so I need to sharpen my skills
Yeah.
assessment. I've always been in public speaking. So I used to be a store announcer at Macro.
Oh,
I was a
Hey, at Macro.
I know.
Yeah, look at that.
7 years of my life.
Oh,
Not
wow.
So I've done my 10,000.
7 years, wow.
7
Okay.
years. So throughout my undergrad, I was doing that on weekends.
Yeah.
Done.
And then I was doing voiceovers and radio. So I've always been in that. But now coming into a space where it's like, corporates facilitating conversations. Because that's what it boils down to. My expertise would be
Yes.
facilitating a conversation, And so just feeling like, okay, let me put into this, because I'm typically an academic, right?
Okay.
So like I said, I'm a lecturer, I'm a PhD candidate. Typically,
Hey, we're going to be calling you Doctor soon.
very soon.
I'm going to change the
I
name
can't
in my
wait.
And so obviously I'm in this space where I'm saying, okay, I want to put research and I want to have backing to it. I mean, you said something really nice earlier in your reflection when you said, what does it look like to deal with people from different sectors who feel like, hey, you need the degree, and whereas entrepreneurs, that's not necessarily the case, and they do exceedingly well.
Yes.
And as soon as you said it, you really spoke to me, because I'm definitely that person who, we need the accolades.
Yes.
Where's the masters in finance?
Where's the certificate?
Where's the certificate in business?
Yeah.
And so as a result, I've been trying to equip myself with knowledge in the news space, because it's really opened up a lot of opportunities. I mean, to the point where I could say, walking away from academia in a formal capacity.
Wow.
Yes, because it was just too much.
Yeah.
And so that it's been great actually. I didn't expect a pivot of career from it, but definitely my career's
Yeah.
pivoted and made a 360 or 180.
Yeah.
And in that pivot, I mean, when you look back, because even I reflect, even myself, my background was in actuarial science.
Yeah.
And then you go into things that are completely
Yes.
different, but also still fulfilling.
Yeah.
And it speaks so much when even I'll need to reflect and think about what it actually speaks to me.
Yeah.
When you are looking at this, and your podcasting journey and the success of it, what has it told you about yourself?
I think also about you, we're so multifaceted.
Absolutely. We're not just one thing.
Yes. And the access to information is what's made the options available. Right? So my mom always looks at me and says, you know, when I look at you, I wonder what I could have been if I was born in your era. And she was celebrating 42 years of being a nurse. And she says, you know, when I was younger, this would have been a big achievement. But when I look at you and how you've changed careers and you've done so many things, you've been an entrepreneur, podcaster, a lecturer. By the age of 32, you've done so many things. I look at it and I'm like, surely in my 42 years, I could have been more than a nurse. You know, and not to undermine the job of being a nurse, but to say that 42 years is a long time. You could have been a nurse for 20 years and something else for another 20. And but that's the accessibility that our generation has. And I can't imagine what the next generation has with AI. Now we're doing things in a fraction of the time. We're learning things in a fraction of the time. We're also finding that we don't need to memorize as much as we needed to before. You know,
all these tools
available. What does it mean for like being a doctor? Will we still need 6 years to study medicine?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Because the other day I was at Mill Park and I see this little robot saying, I am going to ward 3. Please excuse me. I am going to ward. And it like drops off medication. So, you know, there's no more these runners. What does that mean for the runner? What can you do now with your time?
Exactly.
You know, what does it mean? Because there's an element of like looking at technology with fear. Right?
Yes.
I had somebody on my podcast recently say, I'm not really happy about this thing. I don't know. Work does something to our mind. And my argument was to say, it's not that there won't be work, but work is going to look different.
It's going to look different.
Work is going to look like being a lecturer, a podcaster, a voiceover artist, and all of that at the same time. And we're also dealing with a generation, right, that comes from that era where they're like, you can't do all of that. And I'm like, watch me. You know? Yeah.
And it's interesting because it just brings a world of possibility and excitement for the future.
Absolutely.
Ursula, if you were to look into a looking glass, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years and looking at the conversation capital, where do you see the direction going? Because in my mind, yes, you've got a podcast, which is maybe a vehicle, but the actual product is conversation. And that can be packaged in so many different ways. And of course, I've always got my monetization brain in terms of looking at multiple streams of income. Where do you see the future?
Sure. This one's an interesting one because I found that whenever somebody answers it, it's nothing like what it's going to be.
Really?
And so I've accepted that I'm not a prophet. And I've accepted to be on the journey, because if you had said 5 years ago I'd be sitting here doing this, I would have said, that's a joke. Please. That's a joke. If I look at my year 2020, the year before, 2 years before we started the podcast, I wouldn't have seen myself here. I wouldn't have seen myself doing this. And so it's very difficult for me to answer 5 years from now what we'll be doing. But I can tell you what I think we'll be doing and what we're trying to achieve. We're definitely trying to achieve expansion. And individual voices. Like I said, we're 3 different voices, and what does that look like for different interests? Like Bonga is very much somebody who's interested in parenting, and she relates to our audience as a new mother. And we've talked about, you know, looking at honing in on her experience and sharing that with our audience. And what does that look like? I'm obviously with a researcher background. I've already started a separate podcast called the Research Bear Podcast. So looking at research, my interest now growing in entrepreneurship. I host another podcast called Rising from the Township Podcast, which profiles township entrepreneurs who've risen. That's why I was interviewing Sheldon. And so, you know, looking at the different avenues right now of within ourselves, that would be the first one. And then the second one is really strengthening partnerships. I think in my learning of entrepreneurship, I think there's definitely an element of being able to partner that can exponentially take your business to the next level.
Absolutely.
Whereas when I first started, it was like, this is all we need. We're fine on our own. We don't need to pair up. And now I'm like, sure, that was some small-minded thinking for you to think you can do it all on your own. You know, and so really trying to maximize partnerships. That's where I'm at right now, and learning the gift of it, the skill, the art, not burning bridges, finding out what works for, you know, that leaves both parties smiling at the end of the day. And so I really think it's for now, the next year, my vested interest is in learning partnership and maximizing and being an expert in how to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I wanted to check. I mean, it reminds me as you're speaking in terms of how it's like moving into the phase of understanding that collaboration is in, and this whole thing of competition, I mean, that's out.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking at you and your journey, it's, multifaceted, and for somebody that's just listening as well, is there any advice you can leave for somebody out there listening? Maybe they'd be looking to either start a podcast, do it in a better way, or an entrepreneur that's just listening, that you'd like to leave some words for them.
So we definitely started with start. Start. Keep your overheads really low. So, because what I've seen with young podcasters, they tire because they start off with a bang. There was this young lady, so brilliant. I'm not going to say her name, but she felt she lives in KZN and felt that her audience, or the people that her audience needs to listen to, are in Johannesburg. So she would pick up this whole camera crew, cameras, rent out a hotel.
Oh my goodness.
Office, not an office, what is it called? Hotel spaces where conference rooms, right? And set up a podcast station. And she's a normal 9 to 5 kind of girl, right? So then when she explained, because she said, "Oh, can I please invite you?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And then she explained her current model. I said, "That's so unsustainable."
Unsustainable.
And she was like, "Yeah, that's my issue, because then I, end up shooting one." I was like, "There are people in KZN, there are people in Durban to talk to." And I remember soon after me, she interviewed some lady in KZN, and it went on to be one of her best performing episodes. And I sent her a message like,
See?
"Girl, didn't I tell you?"
Yeah.
Like, the fact that you think that there's only people to interview in Johannesburg is crazy and wild.
Yeah.
Keep your overheads really low. You don't need to speak to the big names. I always say my best performing episode is in, I think she's an accountant at I can't say.
Okay.
It's an opposition bank. Sponsors, we're with you. And so she comes from, she's an accountant, and she came onto the show to speak about how speaking up in a meeting propelled her career.
Yes.
And that attracted an international audience.
Wow.
And to this day, revenue-wise, brings us money in every month.
Wow.
That one episode, and it's been maybe 2 years now since we've had it. And it just reminded me that you don't need a big name.
Yeah.
You actually could have the girl from next door.
Yes.
Wow.
Oprah speaks of that. Oprah says when she started her show, the big names wouldn't come to her show.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm going to have to settle for the every girl day story. And it turned out that's what people needed to
That's
hear.
what people needed to hear. They want to see reflections of
themselves,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, my goodness. I've gotten such amazing nuggets. Papa Biz, let me kind of throw the ball back into your court. With our conversation we've been having with Ursula, what have been kind of the big aha moments for you?
I think it's two things if I'm listening to your story. The first thing is obviously in terms of podcasting, but just in business in general, is to be authentic, to actually just be yourself. And that, of course, requires some self-reflection to understand who am I not. Some people, you may need to pick up a book and read just to understand who you actually are. And the second thing that I'm picking up is understanding that in this moment in time for our generation, you can and should embrace being multifaceted.
Absolutely.
To choose to define yourself just in one box can really hurt you in future
and shortchange you.
Absolutely.
The world is changing, and there's so much of you that can actually bring light into the world.
Sure.
So don't dim your light.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I think for me, one of my biggest takeaways is the fact that it's clear that conversation is part of your gift.
Sure.
And for me, opportunities to see people, especially see people who look and sound like me, operating within their gift, is just so wonderful.
Thank you.
It really is. And I think sometimes we underestimate the power of just operating within our gifting and what it does for other people. It affirms them to keep working in their gift, or even to seek it out if they've been afraid to do so. And it also affirms to me that passion and profit can collide.
Shoo. That's a nice one. Yeah, I love that.
That's absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful. We can monetize from the thing that we are good at doing. And that is something that I absolutely love. Ursula, for that person that may be living under a rock and hasn't seen your podcast
Yes.
or would love to connect with you further, how do they go about doing so?
So it's Ursula Mariani on all social media platforms. I'm assuming it's going to be on the screen. How to spell it, so I won't spell it out. And then it's The Conversation Capital. And if you want to email us, it's really simple, theconversationcapital@gmail.com.
Absolutely brilliant. Ursula, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks
so
for
much,
having me.
Monetizers, that brings us to the end of yet another highly impactful conversation. Please do share your aha moments with us in the comment section and what your biggest takeaways were. And make sure that you follow us on all social media platforms. It's at Monetize Your Business. And don't forget to plug into our physical workshops of Monetize Your Business in partnership with FNB. Until our next conversation.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.